Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello, my dear friends and students. In this video, I want to explain the types of information flow as well as the responsibility centers. So, two topics will be discussed in this one, inshallah. First of all, types of information flow. Information flow means simply movement of information. How the information moves in the organization. Basically, in this case, I mentioned that there are two movements in the organization. One movement is called top-down information flow, and the other flow is called bottom-up information flow. Top-down information flow simply means if information is generated at the top level and it is communicated to the lower level. And bottom-up information flow means when information is generated at the lower level and it is communicated to the upper level or upper level. So two types of information flow we have. One type of information flow is called top-down information flow, and the second one is called what? Bottom-up information flow. Now let us discuss each one a little bit. The first part, for example, top-down information flow. In this system, information flow from the top level to the lower level of management. It means information is generated on the top level and it is communicated to the lower level. For example, one of the example of top-down information flow is, for example, budgeting system in organizations. So which level of organization make budget? Usually top management make a budget. For each segment of the organization or for each department of the organization, they make a budget. And of course, in the budget, of course, they specify that, well, we can say with this budget, so which goals are to be achieved, and that is why it can be called as a performance budgeting system. This set of performance, for example, these are the goals that you have to achieve, and this is your budget. For example, A department, this is the goal and this is the budget. B department, this is the goal and this is the budget. C department, this is the goal and this is the budget. For example, let us assume that if Ministry of Finance make the budget for different ministries, right? So they set the budget and they set the goal also. For example, you have to apply this budget and achieve this goal. Apply this budget, achieve the goal. Apply this budget and achieve the goal. So this can be called as well as a top-down information flow. Why? Because information is provided at the top level and communicated to the lower level. One example. Second example of top-down information flow can be, for example, policy development. So which level of organization make policy? Of course, the answer is top level. So top level make the policies, top level make the plans, the strategies, and they communicate to the level. All of this can be called as example of what? Top-down information flow, right? So these are a few simple example of top-down information flow. The next one is, of course, bottom-up information flow. What is bottom-up information flow? Information is, it is just the opposite of top-down. Information is created on the bottom level or lower level and it is communicated to the upper level, right? So when the events occur at the lower level and it is reported to the high level authority is called what? Bottom-up information flow. Also, the bottom-up information flow can be called as what? Responsibility reporting system. So once again, let me go for the previous slide. The top-down information flow can be called as what? Budgeting information system. Sorry, performance budgeting system. And the lower level can be called as responsibility reporting system. A simple example of this bottom-up information flow is accounting system. Why accounting system? Because lower level of management go for the recording, for classifying, summarizing, and so on. And finally, they provide accounting information and communicate it to whom? To the top level. So accounting is the lower level people's accountants. And after that, of course, in the middle, we have some finance, and at the top, we have some other people, which might be finance or some other management. But accounting is usually in the lower level of the organization. But the information which they provide is very important. Why? Because they deal with the lower activities, the selling and so on, or the expenses. And finally, they provide generate a report and communicate it to the top level. So accounting cycle can be a nice example of bottom-up information flow. Now the next point is responsibility accounting system. When we can have a responsibility accounting system, or what is responsibility accounting system? When we combine these two parts, responsibility reporting system plus performance budgeting system, it means when we have a two-way communication of information, communication from top to down and communication from bottom to up. When you have two-way communication in the organization, it means that organization have what? Responsibility accounting system. Responsibility accounting system means you set a goal for a particular person and they do it and finally they provide a report for that. If you set a goal and that person do it and finally they provide a report for you, it means you have a responsibility accounting system. In responsibility accounting system, basically we do this one. We compare the performance with what? With the responsibilities. We compare, for example, what we have set for them, and also we get, for example, what they have done. And we find out the difference, for example, if the goal is different, if the actual was different, and for example, the standard was different, so we have to find the reason for that one. Let's just take a simple example of this budgeting, for example. Suppose we set a budget for a particular organization. Suppose for salary, for example, how much was the budget? This was the budget, and this was, for example, the current or the things which actually happen in the business. And this was what the difference. So what happened basically, what was the standard and what was the difference? This can be called as the what? The budget variance. So these things are basically checked in this one, in the responsibility reporting system. What was our objective and what you have achieved? Is there any difference between these two or not? So the same thing is available in the accounting, right? For example, regarding, let's take a simple example. Suppose we can say regarding travel. Our estimated was this one basically, or budgeted one, but the current is this much. How much difference? Difference is this much. So this is the point. Office, for example, these are regarding operating expenses. Other income and expenses. So these are a common example of this one. So how much we have estimated or budgeted one, how much was the actual, and how much was the difference. So whether it is there is more variance or whether there is a less variance. So this can be a simple example of this one. The next things after top-down information flow is this one, responsibility center. What do you mean by responsibility center? Let me go through definition of it. The organizational subunit which measure and control performance by accumulating data about different activity is called what? Responsibility center. Let me tell you in this way that responsibility center means those subunit of the organization, those department of the organization, those part of the organizations which they measure and control their performance can be called as well, can be called the responsibility center. So if we go in a better way, on a simple way, responsibility center simply can be called as a subunit of the organization. Each department can be called as a responsibility center. Suppose we have an organization, suppose we have a manufacturing company. Procurement department is the responsibility center. Purchase department, if we have, for example, this one. Marketing department is the responsibility center. IT department, finance department, HR department, all those departments that we have in the business can be called as what? As a responsibility center. And of course, each department is responsible to measure and control their performance uh, uh, by, by, by collecting data about their activities. So what are their activities, what they have done, what were expected from those guys. So whether they have achieved this standard or not. So this can be called as what? Responsibility center. There are several types of responsibility centers in the organization, but main of them are this one. Three types of responsibility centers. Responsibility center can be cost center, responsibility center can be profit center, and responsibility center can be called as what? As an investment center. So the first one is expenses center, or also we can call it what? Cost center. The responsibility center which control cost income. The responsibility of this section is only to control their cost. It means the section deal with the cost only, or this units or this responsibility centers do not generate revenue at all. Their responsibility is to do something, but of course they incur expenses. A simple example of this one is, for example, production department in a manufacturing unit. There is no revenue by production department. Revenue is of course by the sales department, by marketing department. but of course the cost is by these departments. So always, for example, they generate what expenses for the business. That is why the section can be called as what as a responsibility center. For example, HR department also can be called as what as a cost center. Why? Because they have to pay and all. For example, we can say IT department. We can call it as what as a cost center. Why? Because they incur costs only. They do not usually sell their service in the market. The service of the IT department is for the other departments. So whatever they do it internally for the other department. They do not directly sell it in the market. So that is why. So they incur the cost for the business only. The second responsibility center is the profit center. The profit center basically, as opposite of the cost center, deal with the profit only. Deal only with the profit and control their profit. For example, as I mentioned before, a sales department. So the responsibility of this center is to check the revenue and control their revenue. For example, marketing department or sales department. So they do not incur the expenses usually, but except for some parts. But rest, one of the revenue center or profit center for the organization is the sales department, which generate revenue for us. And the last one or the third one is the investment center. Investment center basically includes both. It includes cost as well as it includes what profit or revenue. Why? Because for the investment you need to incur both. Initially you have to incur some cost, and finally you have to have some profit or revenue as well. So we can say the whole organization can be called as well as an investment center, or otherwise the investment department. Suppose in the case of a bank, the investment department can be called as a investment center. Why? Because initially they make investment and finally they generate revenue. So thank you so much for the videos. Please do not forget my channel. Go for Mohibullah Zamani, subscribe and to receive the next videos. Thank